Hello, dear friends. I'm Marina from ourstars.net, and you're watching the next episode of How to Read a Birth Chart and Make Predictions with Astrology. Those videos are series where I teach you how to analyze birth charts and I show you interesting examples with concrete indications which you can then apply when you analyze your own chart or other horoscopes. Today's topic is very interesting. Of course, I want to thank our volunteer, who I will call Lara. She provided her information, and her case is extremely interesting. So let me share quickly what she has sent me. My whole life changed in a split during a date. At some time in the afternoon, I was knocked unconscious by a 312-pound display until that crushed me onto the floor. I suffered traumatic brain injury, spinal injuries, dislocated my jaw, and left me with permanent vestibular and visual consequences. But I'm alive, and we are happy for Lara that she is recovering. It has happened a long time ago, during 2006, by the way. And after that time, she suffers from, let me see, what was that? Lack of attention. And yeah, she couldn't focus very well. So, very interesting case. And we are going to analyze Lara's chart, and I will show you how you can find indications for possible accidents or for possible health injuries or health issues, and how you can find how you can make the difference actually between chronic diseases and life-threatening situations, because obviously in this case, in Lara's case, we are talking about life-threatening situation. To have something so heavy fall on you and have so many injuries, obviously it has been really dangerous, and we can even say she is lucky she has survived. So how to make the difference? And here I would like also to mention that the point of this video is not to scare you, not to make you afraid of the transits, but instead to show you how you can prevent certain things. Unfortunately, we are not able to prevent every possible challenge or accident, but in some cases we can. So I will show you Lara's horoscope, and basically we are going to see in practice how all of that works. So I'm sharing my screen now. Hopefully you can see it. First, of course, we are going to start with the birth chart. And then we have the exact date of this unfortunate event, and we are going to analyze a couple of methods and see what has happened during this very moment. So this is Lara's horoscope. The first thing which makes impression in this chart is the fact that Saturn is in 8th house, not only in 8th house, but also in conjunction with the cusp of the house. And it is also in the apex of a town square. It has a square with Neptune, and it squares the sun and the moon. And on the other hand, the sun and the moon have an opposition with Neptune. So this triangle configuration is called a town square. And we have the sun and the moon included here, which are the most important planets. On top of that, the moon rules her ascendant, which is in Cancer. So obviously, this is a very important astrological configuration. And 8th house is the main house which can bring you similar events to what has happened to Lara. These are not only serious health issues or some kind of illnesses which come and go. These are usually stressful, shocking situations which can also threaten your life. So in my opinion, this town square is the main reason for this event to occur. And here, of course, we can discuss also do you need to have something triggering your eighth house in order to have those events in the birth chart? First of all, if something important like that happens in your life, something which changes your life for years ahead, you should be able to find some indications in the birth chart. If you don't have any challenging indications related to your eighth house or the ruler of eighth house, sixth house is also important for health. The ascendant and the ruler of the ascendant also is important. So if you can't find any of those events, this is an indication that there is a very low chance that this person will go through something so traumatic. So unfortunately, in Lara's case, we find that this is definitely an option. And because Saturn, first of all, is related to all kinds of bones in our body. It's related also to our spine. The sun is also in some way related to the spine, by the way. But this combination, the Saturn in 8th house squaring the sun, usually can bring higher chances for having some issues with your back or with the spine. And in my opinion, this is one of the main reasons. Another challenging indication, Jupiter is the ruler of her sixth house, and Jupiter has an opposition with Pluto. By the way, those two planets are part of another Tau square together with Venus. So Lara has two Tau squares. One of them affects the ruler of her sixth house, which is one of the main health houses. The other one affects eighth house, the house of critical situations, which is also called, or which can also be related to near-death experiences. So this is also a challenging position. And on top of that, we said the sun and the ruler of the ascendant are part of this combination. Another indication also is that the south node is in 8th house. The lunar nodes are really important. Whenever the lunar nodes are in your health houses, 8th, 2nd, and 6th, and 12th, this is an indication that health is an important topic, important theme in your life. And the more conscious you are, the more you can avoid those things. I mean, to be conscious, I mean it as to take care of your health, or to pay attention, or to be wiser, you know, about your habits and everything. That's what I mean to be conscious. So don't underestimate the importance of your health. And this south node in 8th house usually brings this subconscious tendency or maybe even attraction towards critical situations. So these are the main issues in this chart which I relate to what has happened to Lara. Her moon is also in a very interesting position. Basically, this is the last day before the new moon. And this is almost a balsamic moon, which is really close to the sun. Not exactly, but close. And usually this can also bring more specific situations about the health. Not always, but it is something to pay attention to. Okay, so now let's try to see what has happened during this period when this unfortunate event has happened. So before that, just let me clarify that when you have something so strong triggering 8th house, these are the cases when we talk about those sudden, more shocking, more critical and traumatic events. When we have challenging indications which are more related to 6th house, usually we talk about more chronic diseases, which are not so, you know, sudden or unexpected. Sometimes they can be serious. It doesn't mean that we should, you know, forget about them or not pay attention, but the type of the events is more difficult, more different. when we have sixth house. And generally, the eighth house events are more challenging overall speaking. So let's look what has happened, starting with the transits during this very moment. So 2006 has been this event. This is the chart for the very day, the exact day when this has happened. The inner circle shows again her birth chart. The outer circle here shows the transit. And these are the aspects. This table shows the aspects between the transiting planet and her natal planets. So in the transits, we have one really important indication. The transit Saturn squares her moon. Here is the transit Saturn in her first house. First house also affects your body, your appearance, your, the physical body, literally. And Saturn, the transit Saturn in first house, squares the moon. And here it's important that the moon is the ruler of the ascendant. It makes the transit actually more significant and showing that there might be something challenging happening with the physical body. But here, before we make some conclusions, we need to pay attention. In the birth chart, we have the same aspect. So let me show you again. In the birth chart, Saturn also squares her moon, together with the Sun and also Neptune. This is a general rule. Whenever you have certain transit and you have the same aspect between those two planets in the birth chart, it will always be a much more important transit for you. Like in Laura's case, in the natal chart, she has square between Saturn and the moon. And when the transit Saturn squares her moon again, it activates the natal position. And actually it squares not only the moon, but it activates the whole Tau square. You need to remember this. This is a very important rule. When certain transits makes an aspect with the natal planet in your chart, this transit activates all of the aspects of this natal planet. So if the planet is in a strong, harmonious position, it means that the transit can provoke you to work, to achieve, to receive. So usually it's easier, it's more positive. But if the planet in your birth chart is really afflicted by challenging planets, has difficult aspects, like in Laura's case, this aspect actually activates, triggers the natal configuration. And because in the birth chart, the moon and the sun are in conjunction, when the transit Saturn squares the moon, indirectly it also squares the sun. This is another general rule. So basically, during this period, the transit Saturn has activated this difficult Tau square, which we said is the main challenge in this chart, which can show such events, such dramatic and dangerous. It's literally a dangerous event. So what can we say here? First of all, Saturn makes such aspects once every 7 years. So every 7 years, Lara should be more careful because during this period, 2006, Saturn is in Leo. So it squares the sun and the moon. It makes opposition with the natal Saturn. It squares the natal Neptune. 7 years after that, Saturn will activate this Tau square again. Saturn will be in conjunction with Neptune, making opposition with the sun and the moon, squaring the natal Saturn. 7 years after that, Saturn will be in conjunction with its natal position, and this will continue on and on. If you have something challenging, which includes Saturn, I mean a challenging aspect between Saturn and a natal planet in your chart, once in 7 years, this aspect is activated when the transit Saturn triggers the natal aspect. So it's very important. And the transit Saturn is part of this natal configuration. That's why this triggering is even more important, more significant. So in the transits, this is the most dramatic aspect. Another aspect which may also play a role here in this situation is that the transit Pluto is in her sixth house and makes a semi-square with Neptune and semi-square with Saturn. We can see it here. So here is the transit Pluto. This is a semi-square or 45-degree aspect with the natal Saturn and the same aspect with the natal Neptune, which in the birth chart we remember have a square between each other. This aspect may also bring some kind of critical events, and here we have a connection between 6th and 8th house, two of the main houses related to health, illness, crisis, and so on. So this is another indication. But in my opinion, yeah, these are the transits. There are no other stressful transits. As you can see, Uranus has a positive aspect with the Sun, no challenging aspects. Neptune doesn't make any aspects at all. Pluto makes those two minor challenging aspects with Saturn and Neptune. So Saturn and Pluto. They are the main indications in the transits which show such events. Now, if you want to go more into details, for example, it's interesting that the transit moon has also been in her 8th house. Of course, this is not enough because each month at some point the moon is in our 8th house, so it doesn't mean that we should be afraid of that. But when there are enough other indications, this can also unlock something. Interesting enough, Mars doesn't make any challenging aspects, but this event is not so much connected to Mars. As we can see, she has bone injuries, the jaw, the spine. These are things which are related mostly to Saturn, dislocations or things which makes it difficult for you to move your body, or these are more Saturn injuries. So here, this is the example which we see in the transits. Interesting is also that it's a little bit before her birthday. Some people also consider this as a challenging period. They say that 40 days before your birthday, you're in a critical zone. I can neither confirm nor deny this, honestly. Sometimes, yes, it might be challenging, but not always. So maybe you can, make your own observations or share your experience in the comments and let us know. Do you think that 40 days before your birthday, you're in a crisis? It would be actually interesting to make such an analysis. So let's look at her solar arc directions, another method, very quickly, and then the progressions. So this is a method which is very specific. You don't need to use it on your own if you don't want to. I'm always using it. Basically, it analyzes that each planet in the cusp of a house moves with 1 degree for each year of your life, to put it really simply. I'm using a software to calculate this. So what's interesting here is that at this very moment, her solar arc directed Uranus has made opposition with Mars. This aspect may also induce accidents. This is a major and I would say traumatic aspect, also very critical. Another thing which I see also, the Sun and Saturn. This aspect is called square and a half, or 135-degree aspect also can be related to some kind of health issues in this case. And the transit Saturn has a nonagon with the moon. As we remember, the moon rules her ascendant. The nonagon is one of those karmic aspects which can bring sudden, really stressful events, really unexpected. So I would say this is the most dramatic aspect here. Uranus opposition with Mars, also Sun and Saturn and the Moon. Also, Pluto has a semi-square and square and a half with Jupiter, which is the ruler of sixth house. So this can also be considered as something difficult, definitely. Okay, so I won't analyze aspects between the planets and the cusps of the houses because this chart is not rectified and there might be some small differences if we rectify the chart, but the aspects between the planets will remain the same. That's why I am showing them to you. Okay, and the next thing which I want us to analyze are the progressions for this very day. So her progressed moon has a square with Pluto. You can see it here as well. Progressed moon square with Pluto. As we remember, the moon rules her ascendant. This aspect may also trigger something critical, something dangerous, in some cases life-threatening or transforming, because as she shares, this has transformed her life after that. I guess there has been a long recovery and she shares she still has challenges with her concentration and, you know, there are consequences of this event. So, of course, not everyone who has this aspect will go through something so difficult and challenging, but when you have so many indications in the different methods, chances are higher for something like that to happen. So, the moon, the progressed moon squares Pluto. Another aspect also Saturn and the Sun. Here we have the same aspect like in the solar arc directions. Sun and Saturn are connected with a square and a half, 135-degree aspect. Also challenging position. Let's look at the overlays. Yeah, and also the moon has another karmic aspect with Uranus. This is called a centagon or a 100-degree aspect. This is one of the more specific advanced aspects, which is literally a karmic aspect. This is the group of aspects which are called karmic. And by the way, this aspect has been absolutely exact at this very day, because look at the orbis. The orbis here is 8 seconds, not degrees, not minutes from the degree, seconds from the degree. So literally this very day, the aspect has been exact, which can bring something stressful, something shocking, something dangerous in some cases. Okay, and also another interesting fact that progressed Mars has been in conjunction with her Sun. Look at here the overlay. So the inner circle shows the birth planets. Here is her natal Sun, and here is the progressed Mars, which has also triggered something traumatic, something which hurts the body. Now, keep in mind that Mars can trigger more important events. For example, if you have other stressful aspects, Mars can unlock them, or Mars can boost them in some way, especially in the transits, but also here in the progression. So this is also an important progression. So obviously, and also we can see here the progressed south node is in exact conjunction with the cusp of 8th house. Also, important. Also triggers something critical, something possibly dangerous, actually, something transformative for the person. And the last method that we can analyze here shows the solar return chart. So I'm not sure where exactly do you see here. I don't want my vision to make it difficult for you to see. Let me see if I can stop the video. Okay, so now I hope that you are able to see the two charts without, my vision, without my face. So here is the solar return chart for this event, for the year when the event has happened. And this is the chart with the overlays. Number one indication is that the ascendant is in Scorpio. Not always, of course, not everyone will suffer from something so dangerous, but this is one indication that the year can be critical for the person, or extremely transformative, or sometimes extremely intense. And obviously this event has been extremely intense for her. Another thing, that the sun is in sixth house. Yes, it's in conjunction with the cusp of seventh house, so it affects the two houses at the same time, but it's still in her sixth house. And let's see the sun. Let's see here the aspects. This is only the solar return chart. Uranus squares second and eighth house in the solar return chart, which can also bring some kind of critical or dangerous situations sometimes, which include the body. Uranus is also in conjunction with her moon, the planet which rules her ascendant, Mars as well. So basically Mars and Uranus are both in conjunction with her moon, which in the birth chart rules her ascendant. So this can also be a stressful combination, as we can see. Another thing also really significant is that the north node is in exact conjunction with the cusp of sixth house, and the south node in conjunction with the cusp of 12th house. The north and the south node are very important in the solar return chart, and they also show you really important life areas. And let's look again the two charts. So the chart with the overlays. The ascendant falls in conjunction with her Neptune. This also activates the natal town square that we already discussed. Also may indicate some kind of lack of attention. I'm not sure what has been the exact reason for this accident. Is it lack of attention? Is it her mistake? Is it really an accident or someone else's fault? But my guess is that it's possible that it might have been more like a lack of attention from her side. Not 100%, but it's possible. And look, another thing, the transit Saturn is in conjunction with her ascendant. This may also bring some kind of, well, events which affect you and your physical body. Also may indicate that. So yeah, I think that these are the main triggers here. Let's look at the chart for the next 1 year. This is the chart for the year after the accident. Yeah, again, the nodes are in 8th and 2nd house. Mars and the moon are in 6th house. Okay, the moon has an aspect with Mercury, the moon in conjunction with the ascendant. Okay, so it's not so stressful actually. The year before that is more stressful. Okay, so let me put the video back on so we can connect with each other. So this has been the basically the most important astrological triggers. Again, to summarize everything. First of all, we found an indication, or actually a couple of indications in the birth chart, which show us that there might be dangerous situations which affect the health of this person. After that, we found that in the transits, the main planet which is problematic here, which was Saturn, has activated the same configuration. As if you remember, the transit Saturn squared for Moon, which activated the whole time square at the same time. In the progressions, we found that the progressed Moon has squared Pluto, which can bring critical situations, dramatic events, transformational events, and also there were aspects between the progressed Mars and the natal Sun, between the Sun and Saturn. Also in the solar arc directions, we found indication Mars opposition Uranus, challenging aspect between Saturn and the Sun, Saturn and the Moon. And in the solar return chart, we also find some difficulties. Not so stressful actually as in the other methods, but when you put all of those things together, it becomes a lot. So let me stop the share here. Okay. So what we should do about those indications, actually, as I said, the main idea here is not to be afraid. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, there are things which don't depend on us. There are fated events, karmic events, which we should go through. And even though at that point when we go through them, they look so devastating and challenging, after some time we may find something positive in those events. And we may find that there has been a lesson, that it has transformed us, changed us, made us more compassionate or whatever. So don't don't live in fear. At the same time, be wise. And if you see that you have such challenging events, such challenging transits or progressions in your chart, then be careful what exactly you are doing. For example, let's say that Uranus squares your Mars, then don't go skiing or something which, brings a higher chance for hurting your body literally. Or let's say Uranus triggers your 8th house, let's say, makes conjunction with your moon in 8th house. Well, try not to fly with planes or to do something which can potentially, increase the chances for hurting your body. Or in her case, in Laura's case, like she knows that, Saturn makes those challenging aspects, and she knows that every 7 years those aspects are activated. Then during those periods, it's highly recommended that she makes some conscious decisions and actions to let go of something or to put herself consciously in a more challenging situation. For example, she starts a new health regime at that point, or stops eating something that she truly loves, or starts some kind of exercise trainings or whatever. So there are ways that we can support ourselves. Again, I cannot promise you that you will be able to escape all of life challenges and difficulties, but you may transform some of those events and you can minimize the potential challenges very often. So observe, and if we want to find indications for traumatic events or things which can hurt our body, the main things that we should search for are the sun and the moon in our chart and what's happening with them, the ruler of the ascendant, the ruler of 6th house, and sometimes also ruler of 8th house. Or if you have planets in 6th and 8th house, also what's happening with those planets. So when you have something challenging related to, let's say, the ruler of your ascendant, potentially this is a period when you need to be more cautious. For example, Uranus squares the ruler of your ascendant, or Pluto makes opposition with the ruler of your ascendant. Those can be periods when you need to be more cautious. And the same rules apply in progressions, even in other methods like the solar arc directions, the solar return charts. So 8th house and 6th house are always connected when something as bad as this happens. So I hope that this has been useful to you. Thanks to Lara again for sharing her experience and allowing us to analyze her chart. If you would like to participate, if you would like to be a volunteer, you can submit your details. I will put my email below this video, or you can send it to support@marsstars.net. Unfortunately, as you understand, I'm not able to analyze or to make a video for each chart, but I'm trying to show you more interesting cases. If you're interested, you can always get your own personal reading, of course. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I'll see you really soon.